Queen by Heba as the music to say when it was time to change drivers. And that it lightened the mood for everyone. I already mentioned about the research computer. Generally speaking, when we're doing a mobbing session, I ask everybody to close their computers. Only the person who is the driver has their computer open, except the research computer. It's important to keep the team right-sized. Woody recommends team sizes between 5 and 12 people. We've found that about 5 to 7 is ideal. It's important to have a working agreement amongst the team members. So what are the rules of how we're going to work together? Basically, how are we going to interact? And then have a plan. It's extremely important at the start of each mobbing session to have a specific objective that you're working toward for that mobbing session. It could be, we're going to complete this user story. It could be, we're going to complete this API design in Swagger Hub. We did one this afternoon where we had some class documentation that we needed to update. The focus of the mobbing session was making sure that the documentation and the solution key were complete enough to give to the person who's going to be teaching the class next week. So have a specific objective that you're working towards. Why would we work this way? Well, one really important thing is knowledge sharing. You can't have everybody going from navigator to driver in a 2 or 3 hour mobbing session and anybody come away without an understanding of what we've just done. If we're changing drivers like that, you're going to understand what's going on. And you're going to have a better understanding than you would have if you were working by yourself or if you were watching someone else do it. We're continuously coding and doing design review. So we don't have to have a separate code review at the end because we've been doing the code review the whole time. In fact, by coincidence, in our mobbing session this afternoon, our security person was in the room and he was pointing out things. Do you really want your user ID in this document? Do you really want the names of your servers? And I mean, it was good because it was a different perspective that we wouldn't have had, right? Many perspectives on the work. You can work on the right things. We were in a mobbing session with one of the teams that we're working with, and there was a piece of code that really badly needed to be refactored. They had a method that was, what, about 200 lines long, something like that? And they had a new method that they were creating, and it was a few lines long. And unfortunately, the person who made the suggestion ended up leaving the company. But he said, shouldn't we stop at this point and refactor this code? Because we're doing it the right way over here and we're doing it wrong over here. And it was an opportunity for the team to get better quality code. You get rapid feedback. You see what's going on, you know right away if you need to change something. Better solutions, the flow of work items. So we're not trying to prioritize. Like I said, we've got a single piece flow. We're working on one thing all the way through to completion and then going on to the next thing. We get higher quality and it's more fun, less stressful, and more engaging. What Ankur and I have found in our most recent mobbing sessions is we don't want to stop.
Yeah.
The meeting time comes to an end and it's time to leave.
Let's work on the next thing.
Let's work on the next thing.
Yep.
And that's the problem because
just 5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes, and we can solve this.
Yep.
And so there's a tendency for it to become very addicting. Okay. Now I'm going to switch. I had 1 minute and 6 seconds left.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Loren.
Take it away, Courtney.
Hey, I'm Courtney Heba. One of the questions we got asked most often when we started mobbing is, how can we be productive with 5 people on one computer? Why would my manager let us work this way? This sounds great in theory, but again, my manager is gonna think it's really suspicious if the whole team is in one room around one computer. So how can we be productive? And we started questioning, we said, well, is it really productivity that you're after? because when we think of productivity, it's hard not to also think of efficiency and effectiveness, because productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness all really go hand in hand. So we wanted to define them. When we think of productivity, we think of having a really high output or input. I'm either doing a lot of things or I'm taking a lot in. Efficiency is about doing things right. And the equation for efficiency is actually benefits over costs. And what that means is, can I make the same app as my competitor, same quality, but can I use less people? And can I do it faster? So can I do something of the same quality of someone else, but quicker and cheaper? And then effectiveness is about doing right things, or doing things that the business wants, things of value, things that people will have an impact on someone else. And so we decided we are actually after effectiveness. We're not after productivity, we're after effectiveness. And why? Well, I can have a very productive day. I can get to work early, maybe I'm gonna stop by the gym at Delta, and then maybe I'm gonna have meetings back to back to back. Back to back meetings, I'm gonna have lunch, I've got a really productive day. But did I actually work on anything important? I was very productive, I had a high output, I went to a ton of meetings, I saw a ton of faces, but I didn't actually do any of my work. And then for efficiency, I can be very efficient at replying to my manager. If my manager sends me an email, maybe I've got a special notification where I get a text on my personal cell phone and I immediately respond to them. And I'm way more efficient at responding to my manager's emails than anyone else on the team. So I'm super efficient, but I'm just doing busy work. I'm working on all the still wrong things. But with effectiveness, I'm working on right things, things that the business is asking me for, things that our customers want and value. And so we've got this quote from Peter Block, and it says, transformation comes more from pursuing profound questions than seeking practical answers. So it's really all about the questions that you ask, not about the answers. And I recently saw a quote from Albert Einstein that said if he had 1 hour to solve a problem, he would spend 50 minutes asking questions and then the last 10 minutes solving the problem. So is the question really, how can we be effective with 5 people at one computer? Because we've already determined we're not after productivity. The question is now, how can we be effective with 5 people at one computer? And we wanted a little bit better question than just that. And so let's invert. My favorite investor, Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's right-hand man, always says invert, invert, invert. Before he picks a stock to invest in, he does a deep inversion on that stock. If he wants to invest in Coca-Cola, he wants to know everything that can go wrong with Coke. Coke has maybe a huge market share in Japan. Japan's got a declining population. How is that going to affect Coke? What about all the CrossFitters that say Coke equals diabetes? He wants to know all of that stuff. And so an inversion question to how can we be effective with 5 people at one computer? What would be a possible inversion question?